On the streets of Hong Kong, free speech in action. This former British colony was promised limited autonomy after the handover to China in 1997. But this is what Hong Kongers think of Beijing's one country, two systems style of government.
People took to the streets here to push back against Beijing's efforts to exert greater control. But these Hong Kong protests could be just a prelude to an even greater confrontation over the island of Taiwan. China's Communist Party regards it as a province that must be brought under Beijing's control, even if that means using military force.
如果有人胆敢把台湾从中国分裂出去，中国军队别无选择，必将不惜一战。
And the Taiwanese people are seeing all this phenomena that the Chinese are getting tighter control of Hong Kong. And if China is willing to use the military means to go against Taiwan, I think the people understand that fighting against China is the ultimate way to go.
A new generation of Taiwanese nationalists don't want to sing along to a tune written by Communist China. Leading the charge, Freddy Lim, frontman of band Chthonic, independence activist, banned from playing in Hong Kong. He also happens to be a member of Taiwan's parliament. They're dancing ever closer to the so-called red line. To cross it, by Taiwan declaring independence, is to invite military invasion. Now the communist leaders in Beijing are confronted by death metal diplomacy.
I try to let China and the world understand what's the young people in Taiwan thinking. Maybe it will piss China off.
Freddy Lim has harnessed the political power of youth, a generation that increasingly identifies themselves as Taiwanese, not Chinese. He sailed into Parliament off the back of a 2014 mass protest called the Sunflower Movement. Students fearing Beijing's influence successfully derailed government plans to forge closer trade ties with China.
After 2014, after the Sunflower Movement, that it shows Taiwan's young people will never want to be a part of China in the future.
What does it feel like to you to be on that stage in front of all those people?
I feel like I can change the world. Yeah, because I think all the audience are with me.
On a Taiwanese beach, final preparations for a very different kind of performance. This annual drill by Taiwan's military is a full dress rehearsal for catastrophe, fighting off an invasion by China's People's Liberation Army.
所以我们有信心，也有能力 让中共犯台的这个行动失败。
Taiwan's been self-ruled for 70 years since Chiang Kai-shek and his national army fled here after losing China's civil war to the communists. For Beijing, the island is unfinished business. Conscription is being replaced by a professional volunteer force. Behind the scenes, some of the next-gen troops don't appear too battle-ready. Much of this hardware is now outdated, the troops outnumbered. The US is promising billions of dollars worth of new tanks, fighters and missiles, but they'll still be no match for China. China is building warships at unprecedented rates for peacetime, and its navy is now challenging US dominance of these waters.
This is all about showing Beijing that if they ever did really try to invade this island, it would be brutal, it would be bloody, and there would be a massive economic and political price to pay. But this is just one aspect. There's also the hearts and minds. And the reason I've come here is to answer the question, do the people of this island have the will to keep withstanding China's pressure?
These days, rock star Freddy Lim moves to a very different beat. It's campaign season. He's up for re-election in 2020 and needs to bridge the generation gap.
感谢我们最漂亮的邱里长，也有咱所有吼现场的咱的林长兄、林长姊啊，也有咱的志工好朋友，大家晚大家好。Most of the young people they recognize me because I'm a singer in a rock band, and older citizens they recognize me because I'm a politician, and also I'm a judge in a talent show in Taiwan too. So yeah, most of the old people they like that show.
As an independent, Freddy is part of a coalition that supports the ruling Democratic Progressive Party, a government cautiously balancing support for independence with the dire consequences of pushing China too far.
So if you just take a seat there.
Jospeh Wu is Taiwan's foreign minister.
If you believe in democracy, I think the people here already say we are not interested in unification with China. But of course, we understand our responsibilities in preventing war from taking place on our part. And the current government, ever since 2016 when we took over, we are taking a very prudent approach toward China. We try to prevent China from having an excuse to go after Taiwan militarily.
On the streets of the capital, Taipei, a reminder of Taiwan's insecurity. "70 years since the war, and the island still prepares for a Chinese attack. The annual air raid drills now have an added urgency. China's growing arsenal of missiles could obliterate this city with just a few minutes' warning."
This is really eerie, I gotta say. This bustling metropolis has just turned into a ghost town when these air raid sirens began. And admittedly, the tropical storm had a big part of driving everybody inside. But we're now being told by the police that we need to go inside as well. Genuine practice.
Please get inside.
Genuine practice.
A plainclothes policewoman spells out the rules.
Any violation will be fined
Okay.
between 30,000 and 150,000.
Right, it's pretty.
Just for Europe.
I see. It's pretty. Everyone's got to take it pretty seriously.
Yes, we have to take it seriously.
Yeah.
Yes. We can live in a really liberal country, but even the government cannot guarantee that everything will be fine. The peace
Yep.
will last forever. So we have to make preparation for this.
After half an hour, the all clear sounds, and life, for most, goes on.
Hi, come in.
Freddie.
Hi.
Good
Nice
to see you
meet
again. This is it's quite an office. It wasn't
Yeah.
quite what I expected. You got David Bowie on the wall.
Yeah, I try to remain as a musician too.
Freddy Lim has taken an unconventional path to politics. Aside from his death metal gig, he also led Amnesty International in Taiwan. For inspiration, he turns to one of Beijing's targets, Tibet's spiritual leader in exile.
You look at the image behind me is Dalai Lama, because I always when I get nervous or when I cannot find the right decision, I always think about Dalai Lama.
So, you've got a rock star background, the Dalai Lama on your wall.
Yeah.
What on earth do you think in Beijing they make of you?
I don't think they like me. The Chinese government just try to push the red lines every time when we hold back. They just again and again. Then now there's no lines. There's just about if you do anything, then I'll kick your ass.
Freddy Lim says the immediate threat comes not from Beijing's soldiers storming up these beaches, but from Taiwan's open, freewheeling media. As a member of Parliament's Defence and Security Committee, he warns some news outlets with links to China relentlessly push a defeatist message that reunification is inevitable.
I worry about it very much, especially in the last 2 or 3 years, that I can see those medias who got billions of dollars from China. They try to brainwash Taiwanese people and try to make good images on China. They try to avoid to people to know what happened in Tibet and Xinjiang in Hong Kong.
In the course of last year, we have seen the Chinese is also engaged in disinformation campaign against various government institutions to create a distrust in the government and to create a distrust in the democratic institutions.
Is it working? Are you worried it's working?
We worry because it's been deeply entrenched.
There's no doubt that Beijing is waging an intense hearts and minds campaign here, where, according to the Taiwanese, the weapons are fake news and lots of mainland cash. J. Michael Cole is a former Canadian intelligence officer who stepped out of the shadows and is now a Taipei-based security analyst.
It's a huge intellectual challenge to try to connect the dots and make sense of what's going on. Disinformation is certainly an area where the Chinese have been very active. Content farms or content mills that employ individuals who generate disinformation. And then that disinformation gets recycled by traditional media in Taiwan that are seen to be pro-Beijing. And then that enters the bloodstream in Taiwanese media environment and can favor certain politicians in elections, for example, or create confusion about the current leadership in Taiwan, the state of the economy, the workability of democracy, notions of inevitability when it comes to unification, futility of resisting Beijing.
And they're mass media, are they? They're popular media in Taiwan.
Absolutely, yes. There's one major group that controls television, print, magazines, whose owner has been making a fortune in China, and it has been revealed that the Chinese government has been funding one of the related companies to the order of hundreds of millions of American dollars over the past decade or so. I don't want to name them because they have threatened to sue people who said that they're Beijing mouthpieces.
But a recent UK Financial Times investigation has named them the Want Group, owners of the influential China Times and the CTI TV channel. Journalists working at the pro-Beijing outlets reportedly told the Financial Times their editors take orders directly from the Chinese government. The Want Group denies the allegations. Not everyone is so worried about China's influence. These local communists actively welcome it. It's a big day out for what has long been a fringe element of Taiwanese politics. During the decades of martial law, such overt displays of support for the People's Republic would have ended in jail or worse. Now they're emboldened by Beijing's increasingly muscular nationalism.
台湾是中国不可分割的一部分啊！台湾自古以来就是中国的一个神圣领土，台湾人本身就是中国人。
Today, Taiwan is a boisterous democracy, and communist leader Wei Min-ren sees no contradiction in exercising his freedom of speech to support a regime where such freedoms are not tolerated.
现在全世界对我们中国共产党也是一样的抹黑污蔑，不是吗？所以，在争取言论自由，照理讲是我们中国共产党、我们中国人民的天生与生俱来的权利跟自由嘛。
Wei Min-ren declares he'd be the first to support any communist troops that land here.
不管是和平统一也好，不管是武力统一也好，我跟你讲，我们绝对支持。我们拥护中国共产党，支持中华人民共和国来统一台湾，早日实施。
Political symbolism is everywhere in Taipei. The nation still pays homage to its founding father, Chiang Kai-shek, who fought the communists for decades. But the days of his hardline rule in Taiwan are long gone. Now Beijing has to contend with the unpredictability of Taiwanese democracy and the freedom to protest. Like this tribute to the unknown tank man from 1989's bloody Tiananmen Square crackdown in Beijing. Airbrushed from China's official history, it's a lot for mainland tourists to take in.
这个你知道是什么呢？
这个我刚才有疑问了，是不是搞一个解放军的坦克在这里呢？
应该是有那个81天那个，
跟政治有关。
对，跟那个80年的这个天安门广场的这个事件。
啊，
但是我不知道大陆的游客了解不了解？
不了解，
不了解。
因为问号很大呀，为什么摆这个东西在这里？这个是极端反动的。89年是属于反恐，反恐。
Military tensions are escalating. But there's a bigger campaign being waged on the economic front. Last year, China-Taiwan trade was a staggering $150 billion US. One Taiwanese company employs more than 1 million workers in mainland factories making mobile phones. Put simply, it would cost both sides a lot if Beijing ever went down the conflict route.
Military drills and air raid sirens can bring cities here to a halt. But for most people, the threat of war with China just doesn't seem like a priority. It's the hip pocket issues people talk about, the economy. But there is another part of Taiwan where people can literally see the power of China rising in front of them. And for them, the consequences of a conflict would be very real and immediate.
This is the view from the Taiwanese islands of Kinmen. Rising up on the mainland, the Chinese city of Xiamen. It's here that the nationalists of Chiang Kai-shek halted the march of Mao's communists, repelling an invasion in 1949. But the communist threat loomed large for decades. The people and soldiers here quite literally dug in. Drifting out from old propaganda speakers pointed at the mainland, the soundtrack of Kinmen's past. The soothing melodies of Taiwan's most beloved pop star, intended to both seduce and annoy the mainlanders. These days, the volume's dialed down. Nostalgia has replaced hostility, and these obsolete fortifications have been surrendered to tourism from the mainland.
It's a little bit hazy today, but that's China, just 5 kilometres away, the city of Xiamen. Millions of people. China's influence here is growing really fast. They've just built a pipeline to pump fresh water from the mainland to Kinmen. Now, the government in Beijing is offering to build a bridge linking the two. Taiwan's government, not surprisingly, has said no thanks.
As relations thawed in 2001, a local special status deal was struck, allowing citizens from both sides to cross here easily. Today, mainland day trippers come over to stock up on duty-free booze and cosmetics, although China's now moving to curtail tourism to put an economic squeeze on Taiwan's government. For mainlanders, there is the chance when they are here to wander the streets of an older, traditional China that's fast disappearing back home. It's the slower pace that's kept tea shop owner Wang Ling in Kinmen. She's a local, but her husband, Xu Ran, is not just from China, but from its capital, Beijing.
我小的时候，在我18岁以前，其实金门这个地方是跟中国大陆是非常近的，所以在我小的时候，我知道2个不同的政府，可是我不觉得我们是不一样的。对，所以现在对我来说，我就当然不会说我自己是中国人，因为我开始知道什么叫做中国人。对，所以我现在自己的认同就会觉得我是个台湾人。
On the mainland, the idea that Taiwan is an inseparable part of China is taught and reinforced from a young age. But Wang Ling says politics hasn't got in the way of their marriage.
所以这确实是一件很奇怪的事，但是我觉得，能够跟他在一起，其实我觉得是因为性格的关系。
Xu Ran can live here, but he's forbidden from taking Taiwanese citizenship if he ever wants to return home again.
我爸妈不太希望我来金门，但是他尊重我的决定。会讨论，但是不是很多的。我对政治没有兴趣，但是当然会讨论，偶尔会讨论，没有什么。你刚问会不会有什么不一样的或者争吵？没有，对。
Kinmen still has a very traditional feel to it. The lion dance brings fortune and good luck, and people here want that to continue. But many, particularly the older generations, believe proximity to China may mean future compromise. How do you feel in a part of Taiwan with the Chinese flag everywhere?
Actually, I don't like that. I know it's some elders. He did that, and he think it symbolizes peace. But I don't think peace is not that easy.
Right.
Yeah, but the elder people think it's okay. It's not necessary because they really don't want the battle again.
So it's a generational split.
Yes. Yeah.
There's peril in the air, for the communist rain of shells continues well into its second month.
In 1958, China attempted to level this place, also known as Chuimoi, firing nearly 500,000 artillery shells in 1 month.
Even more heavily pounded is Little Quemoy Island, still closer to the mainland. Islanders, children and all, live on a constant alert. No real let-up in the situation is yet in sight.
Failing to dislodge the Taiwanese, the communists then shelled Kinmen every second day for 20 years, with Taiwan returning fire on alternate days. Look at this.
The shell. Yeah.
Are these original shells from
Yes.
the 60s and 70s?
Yes.
Bizarrely, many of the communist shells weren't armed with explosives, but propaganda messages, creating a new cottage industry, making knives. That is so heavy. I can't believe
so
that.
heavy.
And so these are being dug up from the island.
Yes.
Locals say the shelling only stopped in 1978, after the US severed diplomatic links with Taiwan and recognised the communists as China's legitimate government.
Cut the shell into the small piece.
Like this?
Yeah, like this. This
Right.
thick.
Yeah.
And then they will heat it and then
Feed it into shape.
Yes, then it will become like this.
Right. Is it good quality? 质量好吗? Of course.
Very good. Yeah.
No one seriously believes Kinmen could hold out against the might of the People's Republic. But without firing a shot, China's economic might and the island's proximity to the mainland means Beijing has in one sense already prevailed here. Wang Ling and many other young locals now fear the hard logic of realpolitik, that their island home is ultimately expendable, a political bargaining chip that Taiwan might one day trade in return for peace with China.
会当成一种妥协的一个筹码给别人。我其实很担心这件事，我也在想，如果到了那一天，我还要不要在这边生活？可是我觉得这个是一个很难的问题，就是我出生长大在这边。
They've watched Hong Kong and seen broken promises for democracy.
如果是我的话，就是如果中国就真的进来到这边了，哇，我可能会搬走哎。
But Freddy Lim and his fans aren't going anywhere. And each year, Chinese pressure grows, bringing the dilemma ever closer. To compromise with Beijing or risk conflict by asserting Taiwan's independence.
The people like me, we have no choice. We can't give up because the Taiwan is our home. We have anywhere where to escape. We just have to try to protect our way of life.